Hey guys, it's Bret. Thanks for dropping by my channel. So I wanted to use today to talk about some book mail I've got. I haven't done one of these for a while, and I thought I would take a break from binging The Traitor on Peacock. I don't know if any of you are watching this. I am not a reality television person. I mean, I should say I used to be big time. I used to see every season of Survivor, every season of The Amazing Race, and I think like the first one or two seasons of Project Runway, and then it became too much. But this thing is too much fun. It's on Peacock. Alan Cumming is the host, and he is chewing up more Scottish scenery than you could throw a kilt at. But that is also what makes it so really, really fun. 10 episodes. Check it out if you like reality TV. If you don't, totally ignore this non-paid for PSA. And let's talk some books. All right, so I haven't been on here for like 10 days. So first, I just want to give an update on what I'm reading right now. I have been with a group of people reading all of the Aspen Words long list books, and that's going surprisingly well. The one standout, I have to say, so far for me in this list is the one that I was most reluctant to read, and in fact had put it up on my Pango to sell and it didn't go right away, and I was like, oh, was Glory. I am eating crow. I loved this book so much, but I think what I'm going to do is I will do a recap next week of the books that I read this month, but then I'm going to do an overview. I think I'm going to do an episode where I talk about all of the long list of titles when I finish. So that probably won't be for another month or so because it's going to take me that long to get through it, but hopefully I will get through that before they announce the short list to say who I think should be on, in my opinion, on the short list. So that's that. But in line with that, this weekend I'm starting Calling for a Blanket Dance by Oscar Hokia, which the people that in the group have read this so far have loved it. I'm going in completely blind, so we'll see. The other thing that I have about 150 pages into is The Shards by Bret, Easton, Ellis. I think I've talked about this before. It's kind of a metafiction-y book, loosely based on Ellis's senior year at the Buckley School, a prep school here in Los Angeles. And during the 80s, when Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, was loose, satanic panic was a thing, and a killer begins to target the kids at the school. So I have to say, I've never read Bret Easton Ellis. I told the story before about American Psycho, but I'm really enjoying this. It's good. It is what it is, but it's really good. And lastly, I got this book that I haven't seen literally anywhere, so I hope you have heard of it, and I'm doing this on audio, which is, of course, Spare. Spare, and what am I? I'm like 65 pages in, and I'm actually really enjoying it. I'm enjoying him reading it. So yeah, I'm interested to see where all of this is going to go. He's quite a good storyteller. He's quite a good writer. And it's interesting. And I know like the world is reading this. So, all right. So there you go. That is what I'm currently reading. A couple of new things that I've got that are coming out, that have not come out yet, that are coming out soon. This one, The McMaster's Guide to Homicide, Murder Your Employer by Rupert Holmes. I know Rupert Holmes from two things. He has other books, but the thing that I'm most familiar with him are The Mystery of Edmund Drood, which was the musical that starred Betty Buckley, which I remember going to see, and it's a great score. The caveat of the musical, based on the book by Charles Dickens, was because Dickens never had finished The Mystery of Edmund Drood. You never actually found out who the killer was. So the musical, the audience would vote, and they had an ending for all of the characters being the killer. So it's really fun. But also, more famously, Rupert Holmes, for those of you who don't know, also wrote the Pina Colada song. And for any of you who are under, 45 and don't know the Pina Colada song, it's also called Escape. You should now go to Spotify or wherever you get your music from and listen to this little catchy tune if you like pina coladas and getting caught in the rain. So, all right, so that's that. But this one, I love the premise of this. Who hasn't wondered for a split second what would the world would be like if the object of your affliction ceased to exist? But then you probably never heard of the McMaster's Conservatory, dedicated to the consummate execution of the homicidal arts. To gain admission, a student must have an ethical reason for erasing someone who deeply deserves a fate no worse, no better than death. The campus, its location unknown to even those who study there, is where you might find yourself the practice target of a classmate, and where one's mandatory graduation thesis is getting away with the perfect murder of someone whose death will make the world a much better place to live. Prepare for an education you'll never forget, a delightful mix of witty wordplay, breathtaking twists, and genuine intrigue. Murder Your Employer will gain your admission into a wholly original world, cocooned within the most entertaining book about well-intentioned would-be murderers you'll ever read. I think it sounds like so much fun, and thank you to Avid Reader Press for this. Very excited to read this. This actually comes out in February. So that's one. This next book also sounds very intriguing to me. It's called The Biography of X by Catherine Lacy. And thank you to FSG for this copy. This will be out March 21st. So I was going to try to explain it to you, but rather than that, I'm just going to again read you this. When X, an artist, writer, and polarizing shapeshifter, falls dead in her office, her widow, CM, wild with grief and refusing everyone's good advice, hurls herself into writing a biography of the woman she deified. Not even CM knows where X was born, and in her quest to find out, she opens a Pandora's box of secrets, betrayals, and destruction, setting her off on an adventure across an America struggling to reintegrate the Southern Territory, a fascist theocracy that split from the rest of the country after World War II. When she finally understands the scope of X's defining artistic project, CM realizes her wife's deceptions were far crueler than she imagined. It looks completely interesting. It has pictures in it. So I have no idea, but excited about this one. Thinks it looks really interesting. Did I just say thinks it looks really interesting as if I'm talking about somebody else? The last upcoming release is called My Father's Brain, Life in the Shadow of Alzheimer's by Sandeep Jauhar, an acclaimed physician's author, affecting memoir of his father's dementia and his own inquiry into the fragility of the brain. This has particular interest to me, frankly, because my grandmother had dementia. I feel like had my father lived, he would have slipped into Alzheimer's. And I had done a 23andMe a few years ago. And one of the things that they mark for is markers for either dementia or Alzheimer's. And I came up with 2 of the 4 markers. Now, it doesn't mean that I will get it necessarily, but I have a better chance than many people. So anyway, for me, that's why this book has a kind of special significance and an interest, because Alzheimer's is just, to me, it's frankly one of the most terrifying diseases out there. So, all right, speaking of terrifying things, The Deluge by Stephen Markley. I had heard about this book from a blurb from Stephen King, who was pushing it and saying it's one of the most terrifying. You know, you think that The Stand was terrifying. This is even more so because it's real. My understanding, and I never read, I should say I've never have read Stephen Markley before. I ended up buying Ohio, his previous book, once I got this, because I had seen Ohio before and it got great reviews. But anyway, I got a copy on Pango. This is kind of an eco-disaster story that kind of sets off with global warming, with politics, and the people who try to save us from the end of the world. It is a doorstop. So I think this is something where I'm going to have to read bit by bit, a little at a time. But I'm really excited by the premise of it. I love the cover. And so I don't know. We'll see. A book that I wanted to read last year and didn't get around to, and again, found this on Pango, Stay True by Hua Hsu. I hope I pronounced that name correctly. It's a memoir about the author when he is 18 years old, and a good friend of his who ends up committing suicide. And the book is about his grief. And so it's supposed to be fantastic. I have nothing beyond that to add, only because I don't know anything else about it. But I don't know if any of you have read this. I would love to hear your comments if you have. So there's that. A Dangerous Business by Jane Smiley. I'm a big fan of Jane Smiley, but haven't read anything from her for a while. This is quite a little slip of a novel. It says it's a rollicking murder mystery set in Gold Rush, California, as two young prostitutes follow a trail of missing girls. So anyway, sounded interesting. I got it last year at the Barnes & Noble half price sale when they did everything at the end of the year half price. So we'll see. This one I'm also really interested in, The Other Mother by Rachel M. Harper. This was one of the books on my, on Instagram. I was doing a 12 months, 12 books that other people recommend for you. And this is what someone had recommended for me. Let me read you. This looks interesting. Henry Castillo is a musical prodigy raised by a single mother in Miami. He arrives at Brown University on a scholarship, but also to learn more about his late father, Jasper Peters Patterson, a famous ballet dancer who died tragically when Henry was 2. On his search, he meets his estranged grandfather, Winston Patterson, a legendary professor of African American history and a fixture at the Ivy League school, who explodes his world with one question. Why is Henry so focused on Jasper when it was Winston's daughter, Juliet, who was romantically involved with Henry's mother? Juliet is the parent he should be looking for, his other mother. Actually, this is spelled Jenry, so maybe it's Jenry? What do we think? Jenry? Henry? At any rate, Jenry, Henry, I'm really interested in your story. I'm coming for you. All right. A Restless Truth by Freya Marske. This is the sequel to Freya's first book, which was called A Marvelous Light, they're kind of Victorian mysteries, a little bit of romance, a little bit of, this one is a little sapphic romance. This was a Lumicrate edition. It's quite beautiful. So I enjoyed the first book. I wasn't wild about it, but I was wild enough that I wanted to get the second one. So that's what this is. The final book that I got, I'd never heard of, but I saw this on the Lonesome Reader, Eric Carl Anderson's, his best of the year. And I looked up, I'm like, how have I never heard of this? Like, saw it on no platforms, nowhere, which I guess is the beauty of BookTube. But I can't even say Instagram because I never saw it on Instagram. And I certainly don't think it would be on TikTok. No shade, just for reals. Not gonna be on TikTok. And that's Orhan Pamuk's Nights of Plague. Another chunky chunkster. I gotta read you this book too, and I would love to hear all of you saying, oh, I read it. Part detective story, part historical epic, Knights of Plague is a bold and brilliant novel by the winner of the Nobel Prize in Literature that imagines a plague ravaging a fictional island in the Ottoman Empire. So a plague arrives brought either by Muslim pilgrims returning from Mecca aboard merchant vessels coming from Alexandria, and the island revolts. To stop the epidemic, the Ottoman Sultan Abdul Hamid II sends his most accomplished quarantine expert, an Orthodox Christian, to the island. Some of the Muslims, including followers of a popular religious sect, refuse to take precautions or respect the quarantine, and then a murder occurs. Basically, it should just be called like what everybody went through in the pandemic, but on an island. But I just think it sounds fascinating and rich and dense. He raved about it on his yearly wrap up, so I got it right away. But I would love to know if any of you have heard of it, certainly if any of you have read it. So that's it for this selection of book mail. I hope to see you guys in probably a week to 10 days with my list of January reads. I've read some great stuff already in 2023. Really excited about a bunch of stuff that's coming out. So I'll be talking about that. Also, then I will be posting about what I'm going to be reading in, what I'm looking to read in February. Lastly, shameless plug for those who have Apple TV Plus. Please, if you get a chance, would love for you to watch my show, which is called Shrinking, that premieres January 27th on Apple Plus. It stars Jason Segel and Harrison Ford. So yeah, if you're around, if you're interested, would love for you to watch. And I will see you guys soon. Thanks.